I booked a spontaneous trip to Guatemala with 48 hours notice because hiking Acatenango has been on my bucket list for years now, and this was my chance to finally check it off the list. If you're planning a trip to Guatemala to hike Acatenango, this is exactly what my experience was like. I was picked up at my hostel in Antigua around 7:45 on the morning of the hike, and from town, it took about an hour to get up to the base of the hike where the tour company had their office. Once we were at the office, they gave us a briefing about the tour, what to expect, and so on before everyone picked out some winter gear to borrow for the hike, rented hiking sticks and headlamps, and got everything packed up and ready for the hike. I'm not gonna lie, this first part of the hike had to be one of the hardest parts in my opinion because you're immediately starting a very steep incline, but we did take breaks every 45 minutes or so, which was much needed. And one thing to note is that you do have to bring and carry at least 4 liters of water in your backpack because you can't buy water on the trail, and with this altitude plus the intensity of the hike, you definitely need lots of water. We stopped around 2 or 3 times before taking a bigger lunch break around halfway up. The tour company provided us with these lunches at the office while we were packing up, and honestly they were the perfect size, a little bit of protein, not too big. And as you can see, we did not have the best weather conditions for this hike. I went in the beginning of November, which is on the cusp of rainy season, so we ended up hiking through the clouds the entire way up the volcano, and somehow the visibility got even worse by the time we got to the base camp. All in all, it took us around 5 hours to hike up to base camp, including all of our stops, which I didn't think was too bad. And one thing I like about Soy Tours is that they have such a nice base camp accommodation because of the A-frame cabins that they have built up there, and they protect you from the wind and the cold while you're sleeping, which let me tell you, it is very cold and windy, so they were very helpful. And eventually, when the clouds passed, got to watch fuego erupt in the distance. The next morning, we were all woken up around 4 a.m. for the final part of the hike where we climbed to the summit of Acatenango for sunrise. This part of the hike is around 300 meters or about 1,000 feet, and I thought it was one of the easier parts of the hike because we were going pretty slow and we didn't have to carry all of our backpacks and things with us, which was really nice. I would highly recommend this part of the hike. Some people end up skipping it just because it's so early in the morning, but it was absolutely gorgeous. And this part of the hike only took 45 minutes. After being at the summit for a while and watching the volcano, we set off back to base camp for breakfast, and we could still watch fuego in the background erupt. Honestly, one of the coolest breakfast experiences. And then of course we have to start heading all the way back down the volcano. It took our group around 3 hours to get from base camp back to the tour office, and you do take the same trail, so naturally it is very steep and slippery going down. But of course when we made it to the office, we had to celebrate with a Corona. This was one of the coolest, most unique experiences I've ever had traveling, and even though it was definitely difficult, I would do it all over again just to watch the volcano erupt up close. Seriously, what a once in a lifetime opportunity.